Welcome back to Podcasting for Beginners with your host, Andrew Durning of Ginger Media Limited. Welcome to the fifth and final part of Podcasting for Beginners. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. If you haven't watched any of the previous parts in the Podcasting for Beginners course, I advise that you check that out in the playlist Podcasting for Beginners. Now let's jump into part 5, platforms and upload schedules. I'll be perfectly upfront that my skill set is mainly in YouTube podcasting. YouTube is where I have had the most success in all 3 of my podcast channels. My advice for any paid clients would normally be tailor-made to boost the YouTube side of podcasting, but it doesn't mean that I don't have some experience about other platforms. I'll start with the other platforms first, so when I go into the YouTube part of it, you get better information and better insight on how to manage it. So let's start with Spotify. I used to use Spotify for my That Mental Ginger Show channel, but I stopped. For me, the reason was because I found Spotify very unfair to the artist. People think that if you go on Spotify, you're going to make tons of money when you put your content up. Not the case for independent artists. If you're a big name, like certain people who used to be on YouTube and then moved to Spotify in a multi-million deal, you're set from the get-go. If you're an independent podcaster with not much money that decides to put their podcast onto Spotify, you'll be lucky if you make a couple of pence with every 100,000 streams. That starts to add into the podcast fatigue that we talk about, where you think, is it really worth my while to carry on doing this? Everybody wants to see results for their podcast and see the progress that you make. And rightly so. You work hard on it, you deserve to see some results. But it can be a tough slog, even on platforms like YouTube where I've made my name. Spotify for me felt 10 times harder. So I personally would not recommend going onto Spotify. However, I do know that a lot of people use Spotify to listen to podcasts, and I used to as well. So I would never discourage anybody that wants to use the site. I just err on the side of caution. What's the best way to upload your podcast to Spotify? There's a site called Anchor. I used that when I was uploading my episodes to Spotify and also a couple of my clients. It's relatively straightforward to use, and the advantage of Anchor is that they also give you an RSS feed, which you can use to get your podcast onto other platforms like Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and any of the other podcast streaming sites. For anybody that is curious on how to do that, I do offer services where I can set up an Anchor account for you for Spotify. I also know people who are very good at getting your RSS feed onto the other podcasting sites. If you're interested, send me an email and we'll arrange a consultation. If you are a DIY person like myself, Anchor's pretty straightforward to use, and I do thoroughly recommend it. Also, it's free. Now the main knowledge that I have. YouTube. The way I explain YouTube for a platform and uploading schedule, treat YouTube like a toddler. Simple, consistent instructions. Remember I said to you when you were creating content that you need to have at least 6 to 10 episodes ready? The reason that I said that is that you need at least 6 to 10 episodes once a week when you're starting out. The YouTube algorithm isn't out to get you. It needs to be given clear, simple instructions. If you put a podcast out once a week, same date, same time, for 6 weeks, the algorithm will then realize that you have a consistent schedule. You'll also have built up a target audience within those 6 weeks, and that will make it much easier to market going forward. That advice also does apply to places like Anchor and Spotify and your other podcasts. When you're using these platforms, keep it simple, keep it consistent, treat them like a toddler. Another key thing to think about when you're deciding for a platform for your podcasts is what type of content you've specialized in by this point. If you just want to have an audio podcast and you're not comfortable having your face on screen, that's fine. Totally understandable. And Spotify is the best place to go. It uploads audio pretty quickly. Spotify podcasts are mainly audio form podcasts, although they do have the video options now. And people like to listen to Spotify at their work because they just plug in and off they go. So if you're doing an audio podcast, Spotify, best bet. However, I am a YouTube man. You can still upload audio only files. Just make sure you have images and thumbnails ready. People still see YouTube as a visual experience, so they like to see some pictures. If your content is around video format, you like to get your face out there, like me, you've got a bit of an engaging personality, not like me, and you want to show off your cool, funky video techniques, then definitely start with YouTube. So sum up which platform you should use. If it's video content, YouTube. If it's audio content, Spotify. But my own personal tip would be to have both. Always record your podcast in video format because it's easier to convert a video to an MP3 file than it is to have an MP3 file and try and find loads of images to put on for a video. Saves time, saves money, job's a good one. So I think we've covered platforms, at least as much as I can give away in a free video. What about an upload schedule? The amount of people that have said to me, I don't know how you do it, Andrew, you've just gotten so lucky. This game has nothing to do with luck, and it has everything to do with hard work and consistency. I'm going to do a little exercise with you. Think back to when you were a kid. What TV shows did you like to watch? What day were they on? What time were they on? And did you watch it at that date and time every week? Or, for example, if you're a fan of soap operas, think about your favourite soap. What day is it on? What time is it on? Can you guarantee that's there every week at that date and time? Why is it any different for a podcast? We like consistency. We like knowing that something is going to be on at a certain time, at a certain day. If you're going to do your podcast right to start with, the consistency is key. Those first 6 to 10 episodes, every week, the same day, the same time. Regardless of your audience saying in the first 6 weeks, I like your content, but I'm only free to watch it on a Friday, and you're putting the podcast up on a Wednesday. Stick to the Wednesday. They can watch it when they want to watch it, but your consistent schedule is how YouTube will know that you are serious about podcasting. Changing your schedule on a whim throws everything out of whack for the algorithm. Again, treat it like a toddler. A toddler's routine gets disrupted, they throw a hissy fit. Algorithms are basically toddlers. You change it, they don't like it. When you're a bit more established and more people tell you, I'd love to see these episodes drop at this time on a Friday, you'll have built the credibility by that point, and then you can change it. Just always let your audience know through your social medias that that's what you're doing. Another question that I get asked a lot is, what time should I put the podcast up? This usually depends on where you're based and what markets you're trying to tap into. And it's something that's more flexible to change after you've done your first 6 to 10 episodes. For example, That Mental Ginger show, though I'm based in Scotland, is not popular in the United Kingdom, at least when it first started out. It gained more of a popularity in places like Canada, the USA, Vietnam, and Russia. So after I'd built my consistent base, I was then able to change the time to tap into the peak times for those markets. They got the content first as a thank you for being so loyal, and it helped increase the numbers as I went on. Again, that timing is not necessarily viable for your first 6 to 10 episodes. It's just when you feel that you should premiere your episodes. But definitely think about it going forward if you carry on after the 6 to 10 weeks. And the last bit of advice that I will give you before signing off, since you've stuck around, is this. Never think of another podcast as a rival. In the entertainment world, different TV channels see other TV channels and other networks as rivals. They don't want their business to go under. They have to look out for their best interests, and they would throw the rest of the channels to the wolves if they could. That's the entertainment industry. It is not the podcasting industry. Why I love doing podcasts is that we're a community. We want to help people and we want to see other podcasts succeed because it benefits our media in the long term. People see podcasts as sustainable growth options. They're more likely to invest in it. They're more likely to sponsor it. They're more likely to buy merch. And they're more likely to take them to the next level, aka breaking into the entertainment industry. So that's the end of platforms and upload schedules and the end of the Podcasting for Beginners course with me, Andrew Durning, from Ginger Media Limited. Thank you all for watching. I wish you every success in your podcasting journey. So until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye bye.